So if we wait another minute or so, we could
Yeah, no
start.
problem.
Yeah.
Hello,
Hi, Kata.
how are you?
Good.
Good. Hi, Mark.
There's Kata.
Hi,
How are,
Jenny. Hi, Solange.
how are you?
I'm busy.
Busy.
Yeah, I'm logging in because I might ask you some questions because EC online and we have mini courses. So I
Oh,
might have some questions about that
oh,
with
good.
SLOs.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, we were, Laura Gardner and I were talking about ISI last week as far as what we were going to do. I mean, we know what courses we got. We got the list from Maxine,
Mm-hmm.
so we know what courses are to be assessed. It would just be. I'm thinking we do that over Zoom. You know, I don't know if Maxine had talked to you or if you guys had talked about how you were going to kind of make sure they get their grades turned in. But if we all had a Zoom meeting and they had to check into that before they could, quote, leave or be done, that might be another way to make sure that they get those assessments.
Yeah, I don't just gonna take time from Scott, but I'm waiting for scheduling and have the final decision on what courses will go. And from there, I'm in charge of like trainings, Zoom, Canvas. Scott and Trevor will help me. Thank you, Scott. I really appreciate. I think we have around
That's why Scott gets the big bucks.
8 or 9
Yeah.
instructors that they might need some help. I will be like on site helping, but I really appreciate your willing to help, Scott.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm waiting for those classes, the courses. When they're posted, I will talk to you, Maxine, because I'm in charge of entering in Elumen. And my plan is to get trained the instructors and get trained them to login in Passport, Elumen, Canvas, and they will teach us all the adjuncts because they will be Canvas certified. And that's my plan. And they need to manage all the technology that we used to teach. It's not different. It's EVE, but they need to manage the technology that requires reports, grading, attendance.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, other folks, I just want to say that.
But actually, I was going to say that, Kata, it's a good reminder of many of you coordinate. I know Amber does a number of different departments, part-time instructors. If you're doing work experience, you have people all over the place. So it's a good opportunity to remember that with Elumen, doing SLOs, grades, and we can do a grading workshop down the road too. It is important to figure out that coordination piece because we're on Zoom mostly. We have to think about how do we want to communicate in this case if part-timers need to log on to Elumen or if that's just being done by department chair or coordinator to really work that out ahead of time because there's a lot of logistics that we can't work out by just talking on campus because everything is obviously virtual. So it's a really good reminder. And I'll be in touch, Kata, with you and others to figure out what kind of trainings you need and how we can facilitate those for sure. So
Yeah, once
cool.
we have the schedule.
The list, yeah. It's great. Yeah. And ISI will be a great test case. I mean, we've been doing everything virtual, but ISI is our first big program, self-contained thing that has so many students. It goes up every year. So it'll be interesting to see how people respond to the Zoom, the virtual, both from the instructor and the student side, and maybe do a survey or take some notes and then share that, do a workshop to share it with the campus community. I'm going to let Clinton in here. Clinton's another one here with a lot of coordination duties with all the wilderness stuff. But yeah, it'd be a good opportunity, I was saying, just to think about what you learned from doing it virtual this summer and see if we can pass that on to other programs for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We will be the guinea pigs. We're
Great.
fine with it.
Excellent. So welcome, Clinton. I was just saying, I was using your name saying you are certainly someone who has a lot of coordination and you probably have one of the toughest situations summer and fall helping or figuring out exactly what classes could be a modified in-person social distancing and so forth. So good. Well, welcome everyone. Let's get started and we'll have time for Q&A at the end. I'm really happy that Dr. Mark Williams agreed to take some time today and go over Elumen with us. I had a few requests from faculty, and actually JD, he's doing a student senate today, but I promised I would record this, and then if Mark, you have some time down the road, if he still needs some help, you could work with him a little bit. But I wanted to have Mark's expertise here, do an overview of what Elumen is, talk about logging in, which for me, I still get stuck a little bit on the department versus faculty role, so we can go over that. We'll then talk about just what Elumen is used for, all the different uses. Mark has created some really useful guides that I'll share with you as well for mapping ISLOs and PSLOs, and they take you through the various steps. And then, as I said, we'll end with further assistance and questions. So I was thinking, Mark, we should both be able to share screens. So if you wanted to go over, I don't know in which order, but what is Elumen, and then maybe next then that logging on step of department coordinator versus faculty, the different roles and so forth.
Sure, let's start with that. That sounds good. Elumen is basically the software that the college chose to try to integrate some of our administrative processes. And so what Elumen is handling for us, and as we kind of, I don't know, it's been, trying to think, 3 or 4 years now that we've started using Elumen. It was kind of been a gradual thing, but yeah, Elumen we're using for all of our curriculum. We're using it to do our SLO assessments, and we're going to be using it. I think they're doing pilots kind of as we speak with the Institutional Effectiveness Office with program reviews.
Yeah, good.
So eventually program reviews are also going to be done through Elumen. So yeah, it's kind of our one-stop shop. It's one of those places for where we're keeping track of and trying to organize all of our curriculum and SLOs primarily. So what do you want to do next, Scott? Log on?
Yeah.
Talk about roles? Yeah. Elumen. Well, should I
I was going to say, yeah, if you want to log on, maybe start at the beginning, which is, I believe you link from, I think I have a picture here, from your passport, right? Under miscellaneous quick links.
Yeah, there's a couple ways you can log in.
Okay.
This will stop. Do you want to continue? Let's see. So will that let me come in?
It should. Try it. You want me to? I'll stop my share. Okay. And then you should be able to then share your screen. Yep.
All right.
Got it.
Well, I'm on my Zoom screen. I'm going to move that over here.
Okay.
Maybe. Yeah. So probably one of the easy ways to log on is just to go to the college website.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you log into Passport, I'll go ahead and do that. Hopefully. Well, I've got a bunch of remembered ones. You'll get a screen, and it's filling in my info for me. But yeah, you'll get but your password, your login and your password are the exact same as your email. So your basic LTCC username password is exactly the same. So you don't have to remember a new one. You just hit log on. That's going to get me into Passport, which about the only thing I use Passport for anymore is grades. Because if you see over here in your grade, in your quick links, I mean, you'll see you can get your rosters. Oh, actually, I do use it sometimes to send emails to all students in a class, but you can also do that in Canvas, so I think lately I've been doing that more in Canvas. But over here, if you scroll down a little ways, in your miscellaneous quick links near the bottom, there's a link to Elumen. So if you click that, since you're already logged into Passport, that should log you into Elumen without any more logging in. Maybe. That's taken it a little while. And there comes Elumen. This is the main screen that will pop up then once you're in Elumen. Now you might want to, if you notice up here, I have a little Elumen button. That's so I don't have to actually go through that whole Passport thing. And you can do this a couple ways. You can also just type into your address bar ltcc.elumenapp.com. If you type this first part, if you just type that in, it'll also give you the login screen. So you can type that in, you can go to LTCC's website and log into Passport, or just drag your URL down to your menu bar and create yourself a little bookmark or a little shortcut. And then you don't have to go searching for that to log in on those times you're wanting to get into it. And the other thing is it's like anything else. If you don't use it very much, you forget how to get in there and drive it. So kind of like Pro Tools, right? Solange. You're not using it all the time, you forget stuff. So yeah, and you might not have to do an assessment. I mean, depending on how many classes you teach and what they are, you may only be logging into Elumen once a year or once every 2 years. All right, so once you're into Elumen, you'll see that you've got your name should be underneath here. And then you've got a little pop-up menu, which gives you various roles, they call them. And if you notice on mine, I have, because I'm special, I have a data steward role, which pretty much allows me access into Elumen almost anywhere. I don't know why they trusted me for that, but that was a Michelle Risden decision. I asked for it. But the main roles faculty are going to be probably concerned with would be department coordinator or faculty. And in fact, most faculty, that's going to be your main, you won't actually have any other choice. Like Solange, you wouldn't have really, I don't think, any other choice but to be able to log in as faculty. But the difference is faculty, I'll log in, or I'll go ahead and click that pop-up. Notice I've got ISI. I'm not a faculty member in ISI, thank goodness for Kata. But I have that in this other pop-up because I was using these other departments when I was doing other tasks in Elumen. So probably if you log in as faculty, you will only see your department in this second pull-down menu. So if you were going to log in to do an assessment, that's what you're going to log into is faculty, your department, and again, those probably will be filled in for you. And then the other thing, if you can't find your courses that you need to assess, what you need to do is check your term. Because if this is on, if it happens, usually it should be on the current term. But if it's on some other term, you might be looking down here, because this is now showing me for winter 2020. Yeah, we don't have spring. The spring courses actually haven't been loaded into Elumen yet. I think Laura just got the list from Ricky like this week. So we're going to be loading those in, and then by the time you're ready to do your assessments, it will show you spring 2020, and it'll show you the courses you teach that quarter. So in winter, I taught Music 104B, History of Rock Music, I didn't have to do an assessment for that class. It had been assessed previously. So there's not really anything there. But if you have an assessment due, what you'll see is in this place underneath scorecards, there will be little boxes, little blue boxes that you'll have a choice of choosing different views of those. I usually try to use the one where it lists your roster all on one page. But they also have a listing of, like a tab listing of the different students, and then you can click the student, do their SLOs, click the next student, do their SLOs. I'd rather just have that all on one page. To me, that's less confusing. But yeah, did I do one? I was trying to think if there was one I could even show you. Let me go back. Let's see if I can find one I did. Hang on a second. Scroll back up here. What I do in fall? Did I have to assess any? History of rock music, nothing. The Beatles, nothing. I did an assessment for my Broadway voice class. So if you notice, what you'll see when you go to do the assessment are these types of scorecards here. There won't be a green check on it until you're done. So if you look at that and see, oh, there's a green check, that means, yes, you did that assessment. But if we want to look at the scorecard real quick, this is probably privileged information, but you can see that it lists your students. Oh, Laura Gardner was my student. She did great. Some students didn't finish, so they got a not applicable. They ended up dropping the class, but their name was still on the roster. So those students, you'll usually give them an NA. But otherwise, you will go down your list of students and rate them, checking a box on each SLO for each student. And so this one shows all the students on one page. Whereas if I back it up, if I look at the other scorecard, I can show you that real quick. That should be this one. It shows this each individual student as tabs over here. So then you'd have to go through and click it, and now I'm doing the next student. And then down here, you'd have to save and do the next student. I'd rather have them all on one page. To me, this is more confusing. So, but if you like that, you have that option. That's the thing. They sometimes give you more than one way to do something, which they think is giving you options, whereas maybe it's making it more complicated. But yeah, you have that choice anyway. So that's pretty much an overview of sort of the faculty role in Elumen as far as for SLOs. I mean, I could talk, I mean, do you want me to talk a little bit first about the department chair role as far as SLO? Because we'll have curriculum, those roles will also happen in curriculum. But most of the time for most faculty, their role in curriculum will also be as faculty.
Right. Yeah, I guess a couple questions, Solange, and then there's one from Jenny. So I would say, yeah, if we could go over what the department role would be responsible for. Solange's question, then Jenny is asking, so which card does all the students at one time? So maybe show that, and then we can get Solange's question.
This is the other one, or the tabbed. I'm trying to think, they have a name for it. Let me back that up.
Yeah, I couldn't tell
you. Or actually, I could probably just refresh that. SLOs and assessments, courses, wall 19. So yeah, so now it's showing. So I click on this tab and then make sure I'm in the right term. You know, when you're doing it for real, but I'm looking at a past one. So the one that shows all of the students at once, I'm going to move that over onto that side, is the first one. They call that Scorecard View, Rubric View. So the first one is called Scorecard View. If I click that, here again are all of the students all on one page. And then I can go through each student and give them a rating on each SLO, complete understanding, strong understanding. I can go through, rate all of those, click. Then you have an option. Well, Jenny, did that answer your question? I'm not hearing her.
Yes, it did. The only other question I had is at what point are we required to actually handwrite something about each student? Can we just do the boxes, or do we have to write something? Because I got confused about that.
Okay.
And Mark, real quick, there was a question. Thank you, Sarah, for answering it. What does SLO stand for? It's Student Learning Outcome.
Is that in the chat somewhere?
Yeah, it's in the chat. I'm watching the chat for you. You don't have to worry about it. So
sweet, because I don't multitask well.
I know. I don't either.
It's the other thing. So I just do one thing. All right. So
I missed this because I came a little late, Mark, but did you mention just a little bit about how these are supposed to be housed on the syllabus and really kind of a little bit of the why behind student learning outcomes? Because maybe that would help a little bit.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Just to kind of frame it. So, I mean, obviously we're getting in here, we're digging, but frame why we're doing it.
Well, we're doing it primarily because the state is telling us we have to document our student learning outcomes for accreditation purposes. I mean,
what's the alternative answer, though?
Well, we've had many of us have had this philosophical argument about, these student learning outcomes and whether they're, worth anything or what their use is. And there's, differing opinions about that. But
so the other answer I'll give it is it allows you to measure whether students are learning. And so the idea is you define SLOs prior to or during writing your curriculum. You sometimes update those. And then if one of your goals is, like in cultural anthropology, students should appreciate cross-cultural diversity, you have a way, a method of measuring student learning outcomes, or a measurement of student learning outcomes. And then that maybe could be an exam or a paper in which students write about cross-cultural diversity. If certain percentages of students, do a nice job on that paper, then I can begin to assess, maybe numerically, as we're doing here, 1, 2, 3, 4, whether students comprehended that concept. And then Jenny's question is, could I also then individually give comments on each student about SLOs? So does that? Yeah.
You are. I believe you are able to add a faculty annotation if you, but you're not required to.
Right.
So I'm not sure if that was, I think that was part of Jenny's question. Is this little button over here on the side allows you to add an individual note or annotation to for each student for each SLO if you choose. If you think if that's going to help you. I have not used that myself, but
I would just say, so I'm Sarah Pierce. I helped set this up. So I was the previous SLO coordinator before this, and I think that save and continue to reflection bottom that is on the bottom of where you can see Mark's screen is a better place. I think Jenny asked the question about responding about, we don't tend to respond student per student, but we do like to synthesize overall how the class did in general. And that could be pedagogically, I've written before, next time I definitely need to give more, or give a better lecture or give more homework on a certain topic because overall the students didn't achieve well in the flow. Or budgetary recommendations are definitely an area where you can go in and say, gosh, my students didn't do well because I need this in my class for them to perform at a better level. But usually we don't go student per student, but that would be something that, it was definitely up to the faculty if he or she wanted to do that.
So typically, if you, let's say the scenario is that you like how your class is going, you're totally satisfied with everything Then once you complete all of these boxes and check them for every student, now if you happen to miss one box, what will happen is Elumen will not show your assessment as complete. You'll get a blue, I think you get a blue mark or something there it'll show that your assessment is still active, meaning you're still working on it. But that's why you have to be very careful to just make sure you check something in every one of these boxes. If you're happy with your course, the way things are going, and you don't really have any budgetary requests to make, then all you have to do is hit save, and then you are done. But since Sarah mentioned this save and continue reflection, it will bring up this box where here is where you would add, I guess I ended up putting in a narrative anyway on mine, very short, saying, would you change the course slows? What do you recommend? No, not at this time. Would you change the budget? No, no other recommendations. And in fact, I need to create a new box because this box already, I guess, has been out of date. We're not actually making recommendations to the Institutional Assessment and Outcomes Committee. That has now become CLEMC.
CLEMC, yeah. The College Learning Enrollment Management Council.
But let's say there was something, let's say I wanted to request some additional music in my budget for my class because that would help us be able to do more. This second box is where you want to request budgetary items so that gets into the what do you call it, into the admin system of looking at budget. They will see that, oh, these classes recommended budgetary items. Are we going to fulfill those or not? So that would be probably the most important place where you would want to include reflection, is for something for budget.
So there's a question from Solange. Are the assessment questions custom to each class?
These questions in the feedback? Or which questions does she mean?
In the form prior to, not this feedback.
Not this one, but this one?
Yeah,
those.
They seem to be custom to your class.
Yes, because each piece of curriculum for each course has its own SLOs. So these are pulled from the curriculum that's in Elumen. And so my course has only 2 slows, demonstrate correct singing techniques. What your course will list is it'll pull from the course outline of record, it'll pull your slows into this area. Make sense?
Yeah, it's nothing that I have to create. It's already been created.
That will be in your curriculum, correct? Yeah. None of this you will have to create at the time. All you'll have to do is log in, go look at your courses, see, and we will tell you, we get a list, we go through and determine which classes are up for assessment based on our policy or at least our current policy of assessing each course once every 3 years. Mm-hmm. So we go in and run a report in Elumen that tells us, oh, it's these classes that are up this quarter to be assessed because they haven't been assessed in the last 3 years. So if your course is one of those, it'll appear on our list, and then we will communicate to you. Usually about 3 weeks, I send an email out to all the faculty saying, these are the courses that need to be assessed this quarter. And if you are one of those, please do your assessment in Elumen when you do your grades. So, does that help, Solange?
Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, Scott, where was I?
So I think, no, that's good. As far as the department coordinator role, how is that different from faculty? I know JD was asking some questions, and again, not everyone online right now is a department coordinator, but what's different about that role versus faculty?
As far as relating to slows, the main difference is that for mapping your courses, you have to use the department coordinator role. For doing your assessments, you have to use the faculty role.
And then if you had, like JD wanted to do a Title V update, to do that under a curriculum tab, do you do that as faculty or department coordinator?
Those are done under faculty.
Oh, faculty. Okay.
Yeah. Well, now to be honest, I think
the main thing is you can see
doubting
everyone's courses in the
Okay.
department as the department coordinator. So if I were to look at world languages, I would be able to see overall who's done an assessment in the last 3 years, who's going to be up, how did they overall look as an overall,
Yeah, you would have
look at them. But as a faculty member, you would just be able to see the class that you're involved, the ones that you've done, and only your students.
Okay. Mark, can you log in as department coordinator and see what shows up for music, just to show what Sarah is talking about? Does anything?
Yeah, so
Let's see.
for strategic planning, I think that's where those.
Oh, that's the new one.
I think I think that's been there, but there's just been nothing there. I
Okay.
mean, I think that's where the reviews are maybe going to be going. But for, let's say, slows and assessments, if we look in there, notice I can look at mapping,
Okay.
and I don't know if we want to go into this right now or come back to it.
I guess whatever you think, as far as just showing maybe the overall of what the department role allows you to do. I don't know if I'll have time to hit every.
I'm trying to remember if in curriculum, because again that's I use it and have used it, but it's
Yeah.
I'm certainly not an expert in the curriculum area. I mean, I've done my Title V updates, curriculum dashboard. Or Kata, aren't you on curriculum committee? You probably know more about it than I do.
But it's just showing. I think it's what Sarah said. Like, you can't go in and adjust a world languages course.
Yeah, well,
you only have
notice-
music, right?
Well, he could because he's data steward, but
Oh well, yeah.
yeah. So if he went to the top of that and he looked at assessments, I think it'd give him the overall number of completed assessments for his department.
Okay.
If you go back to assessments on the quarter, up. If you go to assessments below slows and assessments, if you look down just a little bit, try to see that one. I think that might tell you
Well, this gives you a record. This gives you a
when they
record of-
planned and the action. So if there was an action, say for example, somebody was in Mark's department and they needed more musical equipment, he could look over at the actions, and the actions would let him know as the department chair that or department lead that he was going to be wanting to maybe put in a request for that moving forward. And then you can see the performance overall, which is nice for your department to see in general how are students performing overall, but not just course by course. And then you can go down as he's showing you per slow how the mastery looks. So you can see in some of his areas, there's complete understanding is a lot higher than in other areas. So it's kind of a good, I mean, I like this view as a department lead because you kind of get a better holistic view of the department.
Yeah, and of course you can choose. It's just it gets a little overwhelming. All of the menu choices is what is it's a dense program is what I call it. But
Yeah, I struggle with it. I remember Mark was in my office once, and I was like, "Where do I do that again?" I just struggle with finding stuff all the time. I don't know why.
It's not very user friendly,
Yeah.
but I would say I always think of moving from the top down.
yes.
So, make sure you're always starting at the top of the screen and you're making sure everything's correct there, and then slowly move down, because I feel like it's not very easy to see a lot of the things. But if you're moving in that order,
Each
that's the
level.
way that it's kind of set up.
Yeah, that's
I'm
good.
gonna give an advice. When you're doing Title V, they told me that it's automatically saved when you're moving through the menu tabs. I will suggest to save all the things in each screen when you're doing Title V, because I lose some things when I was doing it last summer. So I recommend to do save right here where you're updating, and then save it at the end of each page.
How do you save it?
Oh, this is what people do in Title Fives.
Y-
I don't know, Mark. Can you go?
Well, yeah, most faculty, unless I mean, I don't know. Is your department? Well, you guys are different. I mean, I like my adjuncts in my department don't do Title Fives. Usually, that is a department coordinator role.
How does it, Amber? How does it work in work
Almost-
experience? Do
I don't
you?
think adjuncts do them.
No, my adjuncts don't.
Oh, okay.
My instructors don't do it. I do all of that
Okay.
with Brad and Sarah from the instruction office. Yeah. The individual instructors don't make those updates because a lot of times I have multiple instructors that are maybe teaching the same course. There may be several adjuncts that teach like EDU 132, our work experience for educators, or ECE. So, or like Wilderness 132 and 133, the work experience and internships. There's multiple instructors. And so we do it as a department.
Okay.
When you do get the lovely experience of doing Title Fives, Terry is such a love. Terry Livesay in the instruction office. She is so helpful, and she will walk you basically step by step to show you how to, if you do need to. I mean, in our areas, we do sometimes ask instructors to do Title Fives, adjunct faculty. So it might be dependent. I know in some of the areas that don't have a full-time faculty member, I know the deans lean upon some of the adjuncts to do them. But Terry Livesay is very, very knowledgeable with the curriculum aspect of Elumen, and will walk you through it.
Terry's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's gotten me through everything that I've needed to with curriculum and updates and new courses and all of that.
Does that answer enough questions about?
I think so.
You think, Scott?
Yeah, and for folks listening, I know JD had some questions. So again, you can always reach out to Mark or connect with me, and I can connect you to Mark. And I think, like Sarah said, it's just a good advice to maybe start at the top, because I always struggle with the roles, but now I have a clearer sense of just I'm mainly using faculty for my SLOs and mapping, and then I guess department coordinator is more overall looking at stuff, like Sarah said, the action plans, and then of course getting into the curriculum tab, which is separate. That would be all my new classes, my special topics, Title V updates, and all that. So it's clearer to me now, so hopefully it'll be clearer to people on the video too.
Okay.
Yeah. So do we want to look at mapping, like explain, and you have some really good guides that we can also send out, those PDFs, but maybe explain what the mapping involves and how that happens.
Yeah, so for us to be able to determine success in programs and as an institution, what we need to do is map the SLOs of our courses to the program SLOs, because each program will have its own SLOs, and then also to our institutional core competencies, which now, in essence, have become our institutional SLOs. So I guess what is the question, how we do that?
Yeah, maybe let's go through a
yeah,
sample of what that looks
All
like.
right, well, let's look in as a department coordinator, because if you try to do this in faculty, you won't be able to.
Okay.
But as a department coordinator, I would go into SLOs and assessments, and then notice the second tab here is curriculum map. So let's click that. And notice now we're coming further down into the menu structure. I'm in music, commercial music. This, we haven't had to worry because I don't think we use those. So again, we've got Elumen, all these other campuses are all custom to how they're doing it. So they may use stuff we don't use, we may use stuff they don't use, but then Elumen still has a menu for it. So we don't really have to worry about that. For institutional slows, I think those were the first ones we started mapping. After you double check that this says that it's your department, or you would click into this menu box and choose core ISLOs. And hopefully my mapping hasn't disappeared, Sarah.
And Scott.
Or Scott. Yeah, and so notice across the top here then, we have all of our institutional slows broken down into kind of subcategories. Okay, that's it. So in order to do, let's say if we're going to map this Music 101 course, I mean, it's already completed, but I would go through and look at my first slow, identify orally basic musical elements. Well, and again, we're dealing with music, but this is identify orally, so identify it by hearing it. So that's going to map institutionally to communication and to listening, because we're listening to different areas of music and trying to make a determination about whether a student was successful at that. So that would map here, and then in your own departments, your courses will appear here, and you will do the same thing. You'll go through each slow and determine, well, does it really have anything to do with analysis? You know, and again, this you being the experts in your field, you know, you're making your best determination about these. So once you do that, now then it doesn't take that long. I mean, just clicking boxes again, but depending on how many courses you have in your department, that might take a while. But notice, you know, you go through here, we're not mapping, got some newer courses. I was just looking to see if I had any special topics. I actually mapped those. I'm not sure why. We're not really assessing special topics. I think maybe I mapped it anyway, just so in another area of Elumen, it would show that my department is complete. But you don't technically have to map a special topics course because we're not assessing those. So there's not going to be any data in those anyway. So you can skip over those special topics. Here's one that's not mapped. Not sure why I didn't do that one, but.
So Mark, quick question. Do you know, and maybe this relates to that institutional research level that's coming,
Yeah.
will they take all this data and, for example, for competency C, look at all the courses in the department or all the courses across the institution or in GE patterns? I mean, what's being done or what will be done with all this data that's entered? Because it's really cool, but then I'm like, who will work with this and what will that look like? Do you know what's happening?
Well, maybe a little bit. From the last meeting I had with Megan last Tuesday, because we were discussing this missing mapping, and I think we maybe found at least a partial solution to. I think she's still looking at some of the Spanish areas because we lost them, and a whole degree disappeared. The mapping for those courses disappeared. But I think we've maybe found a partial solution. But let me pull up just a second. I can show you. I'm gonna in Clemcy this week, Michelle Risden had asked kind of that same question. And so notice up at the top here, I'm going to choose this report, 2018-19. So this was last year's academic year.
There it is.
We were trying, Laura and I have been trying for weeks to figure out how to get a report that's not 500 pages full of zeros and, you know, irrelevant data. And so at our last meeting with Megan, she showed us this report. And so what this is, for example, is an institutional slow report for the college for each slow. So here's ISLO, here's A for reading. And here's the data for that academic year, fall 2018 through spring 2019. And for the entire college, this is the data that we have. Here's write, listen. Fortunately, this is only about a 4-page report, but it has all of the institutional slows for that academic year and our success by each measure of complete, strong, moderate, or little to no understanding. It's giving this first number is the number of students, and then this is the number of percentage. But Elumen, that's part of the problem with Elumen. It can dig in so far. It can dig in deeper than this. This would be like the first level of data. But it can then also show, and you could run a report that would show 5 years worth of data. But that's part of the problem of getting these reports is knowing what you're asking Elumen for.
But this is good because I think it'll help us with accreditation too, because we can produce these reports and then know where to target in terms of the different competency areas. So
exactly.
Yeah.
But the caveat is this data is only as good as the mapping.
Right.
Because if the mapping is not complete, then the data is incomplete.
Right.
So for that to be meaningful in any sense, we've got to have, we've probably got to have way more mapping done than we currently have.
Oh, I thought it was mostly done. It's not, huh?
Well, there's still areas.
Yeah.
There's some of these bad faculty. There's the good faculty like us, and then Clinton's raising his hand, and then there's the bad faculty. Well, Clinton was redoing his entire program.
Clinton only wrote like 500 new classes, so
yeah. So Clinton and I spoke and said, you know what? If you're going to redo all of these classes, don't map the old classes. You're wasting your time. So he's got some mapping to do coming up here, but that's one of the examples of that, Scott. And then just real quick, I'll show this one for the same period of time. This is about notice the report goes from 4 pages to 600.
I'm glad it's not 666.
Yeah, we're lucky with that, huh? But what this report is institutional slows, but it's showing how each department contributes to each slow.
Oh.
Institutionally. Okay? So that could be a useful report, for accreditation. Notice if nothing's been assessed, there's a bunch of zeros.
Mm-hmm.
This was addiction studies, so I think they're alphabetical. You have to go down here a little ways to see some data. Here's what's this one? Oh, and actually, what's also nice is at the end. Here's Allied Health. Mm-hmm. At the end of their department area, then it has an overall by term for the department, and then overall by ISLO for the department. So these reports, I've finally figured out how to run these. Mm-hmm. So I can get those. Laura Gardner can get different faculty those reports if they need them. It would primarily be department chairs and for program review data mm-hmm. that you would want those type of reports. But yeah, that one's 600 pages. Megan ran one for the entire college by course. It was 5,000 pages. So what are you going to do with that? No one would read it. It's just like all of the legislative bills that go through Congress. Nobody reads them because they're 1,000 pages or whatever.
Yeah. Hey, Mark, Jenny was asking if she wants to see the real estate department data, would she connect with you or would that be Brad? What would the process be on that?
Probably me or Laura.
Okay.
To get her a report like that. I don't think Brad knows about this, at least yet, because I didn't find out till like last Tuesday.
Okay.
So, but yeah, if you wanted to do real estate, I could probably pull up a couple different examples. I've got 2 other examples that we don't have to go over them here. I was going to go over them in Clemson on Thursday, but there is a department report for PSLOs for how each course contributes to program slows. And then this one is how each course contributes to ISLOs in my department.
And so to clarify that, if you're wondering, so it's sort of like, just like this at the course level, you have an SLO for student learning. At the program level, you have a program level outcome. Overarching, right? It's like everything, all the courses and everything you do in your department. And then as Mark said, the ISLO is for the entire institution. So it's like different levels of generality or specificity. So it all kind of maps together at these different levels. I still find it a little confusing, but it makes more sense now that we're doing more work, particularly with program review, I think, to clarify how this all makes sense and how all the courses relate all the way to the top of the institution. So
yeah, and so was it Jenny?
Yeah, Jenny was asked about real estate.
Yeah, so I could run a report like this for real estate and choose, how do the course slows in real estate affect the real estate program slows, or how do they affect the institutional slows?
Mm-hmm.
But again, those reports are only as good as the amount of data that has been assessed.
Right.
If you have one course that's only being assessed, our policy has been to assess each course only once every 3 years. Well, how real is that data going to be? As another kind of topic we're debating in Clemcy is, do we really need to be doing more assessments to have better data? And I would argue we do. Once every 3 years, what's that going to tell you? Not a whole lot, in my opinion. But
I think JD asked that in the last Clemcy, and I was
yes.
in a meeting yesterday. And I know if eventually this could get integrated in Canvas, then you could just automatically do it every single quarter, and you could have integration in there. But I don't know if that's happening. If we'll ever do that.
It's in the process, but Elumen apparently was getting some updates that are going to help that integration process. So we're kind of waiting for those updates to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But that is something Treva and I are working on. It's just not happening quickly.
Right. Maybe I'm looking, we have about 7 minutes left.
Okay.
Do we want to go into, this is great, by the way, do we want to go into questions and answers as far as
Sure.
what people want to know?
The only other thing I could maybe cover really quickly on the mapping is I was showing you ISLO mapping.
Yeah.
But if you want to map to your program, you'd have to use this menu over here to choose one of your degrees or certificates. Let's say I picked this one, commercial music, AA, even though that may be going away, we're not sure. Then notice at the top, it's going to show the 4 program slows that are for my program, and then how each of the courses in my program are going to map their course slows to that, and so you would then check those particular boxes. And I think you can also access that over here in addition to under here. But if you're not seeing and I've also tried accessing program slows, and then sometimes I still see the ISLOs up there. And so then if that happens, sometimes I've had to refresh Elumen by re-clicking this curriculum map tab again. Then I can go into my core PSLOs. Is it letting me? Let's see, I don't know why I've got multiple commercial music. That's interesting. No PSLO found. Well, maybe I do have to go back here. Yeah, there they are. So you may have to use that menu. I don't have my instructions in front of me, but yeah, I think there were multiple ways, but probably the easier way is as you're moving down through the menus, like Sarah was mentioning, when you get to programs, choose your program that you want to map to. Your courses also, if they appear in other programs, you will have departmental coordinator access to those areas so that you can map your courses in other programs. Clinton may have some wilderness courses in EVS, I think, or some other areas. And so you've been given, department coordinators have been given multiple department coordinator roles.
And maybe, Mark, one tip on that, because it came up with me. Behnaz had, I think it was the Anthro 103, the physical bioanthro class. And she came to my office before COVID closed everything, and she said, oh, well, what do you think this relates to? She asked me about what we cover. And so that part probably requires a little bit of coordination, particularly if, like, I wouldn't know biology, so I would have to go to her or Sue and ask a question and say, well, do you think what we cover in bioanthro covers this area in your whatever? So that gets a little tricky just because I think it requires more coordination, because typically, like, I only know 2 programs, and the other programs I would rely on the chairs, if there are chairs available, full-time faculty, to ask those kind of questions, you know.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
What other questions does anybody have?
Yeah, let's have some questions.
No questions. Clear as mud.
Solange.
How do you know if your courses are going to be SLO in the quarter?
You will receive an email from me. Generally, it will be about 3 weeks before finals. So right now, we're working on getting the courses. I think Ricky just sent Laura the list, so she's going to be running, the report in Elumen to determine which courses are up for assessment this quarter, and then I get that and then send that out to all the faculty, and just say, please check this spreadsheet to see if you have any courses that need to be assessed this quarter. If you do, please, the deadline for those are when your grades are due, which is 3 business days after the last day of finals. What are you teaching, Solange? You're teaching DMA, right?
DMA 10301 film production online. It's never been taught online before.
It might need an assessment then. I don't know, but I'm just guessing.
Well, I have an evaluation coming up as well, and I don't know anything about that either.
Better talk to Brad.
Yeah, reach out to Brad.
Say, Brad, help me. Any other questions about or about slows?
Yeah, I got a question, Mark. So I've got a ton of sections of like the avalanche courses.
Well, I was hearing, was somebody else asking something too at the same time?
Oh no, we got 2 things going on here at the house.
Yeah.
2 Zoom meetings going on face to face at the desk.
Okay, so all that background is still coming from you, Clinton. So what's your question?
So I've got multiple sections of avalanche courses, and each one of the adjuncts, it's one section, it's a standardized curriculum, nationwide standardized curriculum, and all the adjuncts have to do their own SLO evaluations. Is that common, or is that, I understand that for the course and for the students, but for the course itself, I guess I'm not sure what I'm trying to ask.
Well, are you asking whether you need to do multiple sections?
Well, I guess that's part of it. And because we've got different students in each section, I can see that. But I guess that next level, and the course, we're only mapping the course to the outcomes, not the sections. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. You're only mapping the course itself. So, but our policy has been, if multiple sections of a course are being offered during one quarter, the decision was that we would like to have as much data as we can, so that the decision was to have all of those sections be assessed when that course comes up. Did that answer it?
Yep, no worries. Good to go.
Great.
One quick thing, Scott. Well, anybody have any other questions?
Kata, did you have one? Or?
No, I think it's related to the mini courses, and I think it's more grade book than Elumen. It's like if we need to do positive attendance, if a class goes from face to face to EVE, I'm not sure about that.
Kata, do you think we should? I'm thinking, should we do a grade book workshop? Like get John involved? Would that be helpful? Getting ready for ISI or?
Yeah, I think that will be good.
Okay.
Also, what I'm not sure is how many of these instructors know their username and password to log in Passport. So as soon as I have the final list of instructors, I will reach out to them and ask them that first.
Okay.
And from there, I know they're the ones that teach for the world language department. They're ready. They're like 6. But I think we will have around 8 that we will need to do some training.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, the more trainings I can provide, the better.
Okay. Yeah, I'll reach out to John just about doing one of these for a grading. Yeah.
And these folks, did grades before, but usually it's me there when they're entering grades. Last year we partied with Mark up in the equity office and help them with the SLOs. So there's always someone next to them. Now I can help them, but if they know how to do what they need to do by themselves, that would be great.
And Mark's idea of like having a big Zoom party to just do that all at once is great, because I think in the past with ISI, you sort of like locked them in a room and said, okay, finish your grades and your slows. So you could almost do a Zoom version of that, it sounds like.
Yeah, that's a good idea too. Or what I'm thinking, I think, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a few ideas, but I need to know how many people I will have first.
Yeah.
How many people want to come to the party?
Right.
Scott, while I've got you on, I know we're trying to finish up here.
And Jenny has a question.
Oh, I've been missing the chat.
Or
Is there a gradebook Zoom meeting? The gradebook process is so. That's what I'll set that up. So yes, the answer is yes. I'll work on it. So, yeah.
We found out in this last meeting with Megan when we were talking about the mapping. Because notice I went ahead right here, Scott. I want to check something. I went in and logged in as data steward in anthropology. You ought to be able to see this as a department coordinator.
Okay.
But then if you click on slows and assessments and curriculum map, remember we had determined some mapping had disappeared.
Yeah.
Because you were done with all of
These
that.
were done. Yeah.
Yeah. What we determined was it's showing the current term or the most active term here.
Oh.
So you go to this pull down menu and choose all of the terms. Let's see if we get the old course back, is what I was hoping. But
they're there. Yay.
Notice they're there. So see, there's a whole bunch of different versions of Anthropology 101. Anthropology 101. So these are different active dates.
Oh, wow.
And that mapping did not end up disappearing.
Oh.
And so what we can do is have probably Laura and or another IE assistant go through and check some of these areas where the mapping had disappeared.
Oh, okay.
I've got records of when it was completed, and then it was showing partial mapping. So they can go through and just copy the most recent mapping into the new one and just check the boxes, and it'll be the same as yours and it'll be there.
Okay. Oh, that's great. Wow.
I think that hopefully solves that problem.
Okay. That's awesome.
But for maybe Sarah and for your, FYI, that terms box defaults to current term. And so if you choose all, you'll get to see all the different versions of that course, whether it's whenever there's been a change or a Title V update or whatever, you'll see all the different versions of that course.
That's cool.
Yeah, that was all I had. Unless
Okay.
unless there were any other questions, I'm good.
Dr. Williams, are you available after this seminar?
Yeah.
Can I create a Zoom meeting with you?
Sure.
You
wanna
could,
do
you know,
it?
what all you'd have to do is, just the remaining, 4 people, 4 of us will leave, and you could,
We
I
can
guess,
have this one.
right?
Well,
Or no, that might be too.
You
Wait a
can turn
second.
off-
You're recording.
Oh, but I
As
could.
long as
Oh,
you could turn off recording.
I could turn off recording. Yeah, that's what I'll do.
Okay.
Thank you. I really
Okay,
appreciate that.
cool.
Thank you.
So, great. Thank you, Mark. Thank you all for
Hey,
attending. This was great having this, and we'll share it as a video. So, 4 of us will leave, and then Solange and Mark will stay on board. So I need to make sure I
Okay.
leave meeting and not end meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Scott, for setting that up.
Yeah. I don't